It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful.
It was intended to be a calm day, a normal royal trip designed to demonstrate unity and elegance. The cameras were primed, press briefings had been given, and the Royal Rota photographers prepared for what they expected to be a routine show of pageantry. But what transpired that day surprised the palace, sparked a public outcry, and left Catherine, Princess of Wales, clearly upset and, for the first time in years, unable to conceal her rage beneath her normal royal demeanor. It started with a modest moment. Princess Charlotte, now maturing into her position with the calm strength that her grandmother, Diana, had once possessed, stood beside her mother during a little walkabout outside the gates of Windsor. The toddler smiled pleasantly, curtsied flawlessly, and waved at the audience. Then something changed. A melancholy expression flashed across her face, followed by a forced grin. And standing only a few feet behind them, Queen Camilla, arms folded, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. It was subtle, but for those who understand the royal family's body language, it was a red sign. Something occurred. Within hours, social media was flooded with speculations. TikTok and Twitter users dissected every minute with zoomed-in video and slowed-down footage. Why did Charlotte suddenly appear upset? Why did Kate lean down and passionately mumble into her ear? And why did Camilla seem so amused? However, the footage did not reveal the full story. It was in the aftermath, behind the royal gates. Insiders say what transpired next shocked the royal household to its very core. Kate, famed for her unshakable calm, allegedly lost her cool in a secret area within the castle. According to one witness, Camilla made a cutting remark directly at Charlotte, intending to insult or disparage the young princess in front of servants. When Kate found out, she didn't hesitate. For years, Catherine has represented stoic support. She smiled through controversy, held firm in the face of public criticism, and shielded her children from the turbulence that has frequently accompanied the royal family. But this was different. This was personal. What ensued was a clash that insiders claim had been building for years. It was a moment when Catherine stopped being the smiling duchess and became a mother eager to go to battle for her daughter. And in the heart of it all, many people feel Queen Camilla should never have worn a crown. It was a bright afternoon at Windsor Castle, one of those picture-perfect royal gatherings that the palace enjoys planning. A spring charity garden event was in full swing, with the goal of highlighting the monarchy's gentler side. There were children's activities, tea shops, and a dozen television teams stationed discreetly to record the royals mixing with the crowd. Guests included Queen Camilla, King Charles, Princess Catherine, and her daughter, Princess Charlotte. At first, everything appeared normal. Kate donned a pale blue dress and was spotted chatting with guests, while Charlotte wowed the audience with her typical grace. The little princess, who is becoming more visible in public, handled herself with the same calm grace of her late grandmother, Princess Diana. She held her mother's hand, welcomed volunteers, and even helped cut the ribbon at a new children's greenhouse. It appears to have been a success. However, as the party went to a shady terrace area beyond the garden, the atmosphere apparently changed. Several witnesses who spoke anonymously to royal journalists reported that something transpired during a brief encounter between Queen Camilla and Princess Charlotte. It happened so quickly that most photographers missed it. However, individuals close to the group said Camilla leaned in at a quiet moment and made a comment to Charlotte that wiped the smile right off the child's face. One court staffer, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, claimed Camilla had commented on Charlotte's posture and look, adding, "Try to appear a bit more regal today, sweetheart. You're no longer in nursery school." It may have appeared insignificant to an outsider, but for a child who was already under intense public scrutiny, it was enough to shake her resolve. According to witnesses, Charlotte's face slumped, her eyes welled up, and she softly turned away from Camilla while blinking back tears. Kate noticed quickly. Within minutes, The calm and collected Princess of Wales had transformed. Her body language tensed. She reached down to murmur something into Charlotte's ear, softly patting her daughter's back for comfort. A succession of fast images recorded the moment. Charlotte looking sad, Kate's face clouded with anxiety, and Camilla standing off to the side with her arms crossed and an inscrutable expression. Millions of people would eventually see that one collection of photographs. What the public didn't see, at least not right away, was what transpired inside Windsor shortly after. According to a well-placed source inside the palace, Kate and Charlotte left the party early, alleging a change of schedule. However, before departing, she allegedly asked one of the senior staff members where Camilla was. What happened next was not a spectacular showdown in front of the whole royal family, but something far more disturbing to those who saw it. Kate, who is normally cordial and diplomatic, was characterized as tense, visibly upset, and unwilling to be brushed aside. She requested to talk with Camilla discreetly, not later. That is not courteous. Now, the insider stated. That's when everyone knew something serious had happened. What room did they retreat into for the conversation? Sealed tightly. However, according to personnel outside the door, the sounds within were not quiet. One insider characterized Kate's tone as sharper than they'd ever heard it, while Camilla apparently attempted to dismiss the situation as a misunderstanding. But Kate was not interested in making excuses. To observers, it signaled a shift in royal dynamics. Camilla had relished the benefits of her title for years, gliding through gatherings with practiced charm and relying on her relationships with Charles and senior courtiers to keep her out of trouble. But in that moment, Kate stood alone. No advisors, no protocol. Just a mother who had seen her daughter belittled by the lady wearing the crown intended for Diana. Although little specifics of the altercation would be made public, one thing was quickly clear. A storm had broken out within the palace, and for the first time in years, it wasn't Harry or Meghan making headlines. It was Kate, calm, collected, and fed up. For more than a decade, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has perfected the royal playbook. Grace is under strain, silence in the face of controversy. Even as rumors swirl about her own marriage, she remained loyal to the throne. But that day in Windsor was different. That day, the polished Duchess vanished, leaving behind a mother, passionate and unforgiving, who had just witnessed her kid become the victim of a brutal and deliberate remark. What transpired behind that closed door between Kate and Camilla is mostly unknown, but royal sources say it was unlike anything they'd seen from the typically restrained Princess of Wales. No more smiling, no more nodding. This was personal. It was not about formality or rank, but about Princess Charlotte. According to insiders, Catherine initiated the encounter by asking a simple but loaded question. What exactly did you say to my daughter? Camilla, known for her ability to deflect with sarcasm, allegedly brushed it off, waving her hand and replying, "Oh, that was nothing. A piece of advice. You understand how sensitive children can be." That was the incorrect response. Kate, who had stayed quiet for years despite Camilla's passive-aggressive insults and cold shoulders, suddenly broke. Aides said her voice, while measured, was piercing with rage. She allegedly told Camilla, "You may have a title, but you do not speak to my child in that manner. Not ever again." This was about more than simply one statement. This was the result of years of subtle undermining. According to sources, Camilla has long held anger for Kate. She regarded Catherine as too popular, too beloved, and too perfect, all of which she would never be. Camilla's animosity intensified as Charlotte developed the same elegant, quietly confident air that Diana previously possessed. Kate, for her part, had always chosen the high road. She ignored the snide remarks. She remained silent while palace politics unfolded. But that day, when she watched her daughter's face crumble beneath the weight of careless cruelty, something inside her shifted. "She'd had enough," said one courtier. "Kate has tolerated so much for the sake of peace, but she will not tolerate her children being used as pawns." Following the private confrontation, Kate allegedly grabbed Charlotte and exited the premises. She didn't talk to anybody else, didn't linger finger for cameras and didn't make a remark, but she quietly spoke more than words ever could. Later that evening, Kensington Palace secretly postponed Catherine's commitments for the next week. The stated reason was a private family matter, but by that time, the tale had circulated. The employees were conversing, the royals were whispering, and Camilla, she was left alone to deal with the aftermath. This event highlighted a rare crack in the royal image. Kate has always served as a rock, bridging the gap between the ancient and contemporary monarchies. But now she'd drawn a line, not as a princess, not as a future queen, but as a mother. She couldn't stand by and watch her daughter become a victim of someone else's power games. That choice, albeit subtle and unnoticed, altered everything. When Prince William learned that his daughter had been driven to tears at a public event by no less than the Queen Consort, he did not wait for staff or advisors to intervene. He didn't request a briefing. He did not arrange a formal meeting. He just got into his car and went directly to Windsor. At the time, William had been attending a closed-door briefing on planned Commonwealth projects, but midway through, his phone rang with a message from one of Kate's top staff members. "There's an issue with Charlotte." A second message arrived almost instantly. "Kate's furious. This is Camilla." That was everything he needed to know. What occurred next is only talked about in royal hallways, but numerous sources indicate Prince William arrived unexpectedly at Windsor Castle within an hour. By that time, Kate and Charlotte had already departed. Camilla, on the other hand, remained inside, apparently enjoying tea with Charles and senior staff as if nothing had occurred. But everything had changed. Witnesses said William strode by staff without saying anything and proceeded straight to the drawing room, where Camilla and Charles were sat. According to one source, the instant he walked in, the entire mood shifted fast. Camilla greeted him calmly, delivering what others saw as a forced grin. But William did not reciprocate the gesture. "You made her cry," he allegedly added in a tense voice. "My daughter." Camilla allegedly attempted to explain, saying it was a harmless comment that had been completely misinterpreted. She maintained Charlotte was being overly sensitive and accused Kate of overreacting again. However, William remained unimpressed. He stood firm, speaking with calm rage that many there described as cutting through the room like glass. "You may think this is your family," he replied, "but not when you treat my child in that manner. That is not my family." Charles, evidently uncomfortable, sought to interfere, proposing they discuss the problem privately later. But William refused to back down. He told Camilla that Charlotte is more than simply a royal kid. She is Diana's grandchild, and that anything other than love, empathy, and respect for her would be unacceptable. "You, of all people," William allegedly stated, "should know how cruel words can destroy a young girl." Camilla was alleged to have turned pale at the mention of Diana. For years, the issue has been mostly avoided in face-to-face interactions. But at this moment, William defied the unspoken rule because Diana's legacy was no longer a distant memory. It appeared directly in front of them in the guise of a distraught young girl. At the end of the confrontation, the tension in the room was palpable. Charles had apparently been quiet, looking down at his teacup. Camilla's hand shook slightly. William turned to depart, leaving only one statement hanging in the air: "I won't let this happen again." And with that, he was gone. Back at Kensington Palace, William joined Kate and Charlotte, who were peacefully playing in the sitting room. No grandiose speeches. There are no press releases, just a father returning to the ones who really cared. However, the harm had already been done within the royal walls. This was not merely a family quarrel. There was a line in the sand. A boy fighting for the legacy of the mother he lost. A father protects his daughter, who carries her spirit. And a prince made it obvious that no rank, throne, or consort was above accountability. Not anymore. The royal family has long controlled their image through carefully planned optics, perfect picture opportunities, rehearsed grins, and subtle deception. But in the era of social media, even Windsor's centuries-old walls cannot keep everything hidden. And this time, the audience wasn't simply watching, they were scrutinizing each frame. It began with a single shot of Princess Charlotte standing motionless, her eyes slightly red and her smile delicate, as if it had been glued on at the last second. Kate kneeled beside her, her face inches from Charlotte's, and said something with concern written over her brow. Camilla stood a few yards behind them, arms folded, gaze far away, and what many believed was a small sneer curving on her lips. The image quickly went viral on Twitter and TikTok. Body language analysts were brought in. Viral YouTubers started sharing side-by-side comparisons. "Look at Charlotte's body shift," one person commented. "Notice how she leans away from Camilla after the comment." Another noticed how Camilla's smile faded as William arrived, describing it as the look of someone who's been caught. The hashtag #ProtectCharlotte started trending internationally. Thousands of comments came in from both royal watchers and casual viewers. "She's only a child. What is Camilla doing?" "Kate seems to be fighting back tears. This isn't nothing. The girl is Diana's grandchild." Of course, Camilla feels intimidated. The event grew into a movement. Fans filled Instagram with side-by-side photographs of little Diana and Charlotte, labeling her the new people's princess. Articles began to appear with headings like, "Camilla's cold shoulder. Did the Queen consort cross the line?" "Kate's protective moment, when a mother stopped playing the royal game." Then came the quiet. The palace declined to reply, refusing even to recognize the internet uproar. But actions speak louder than words, and their next step further fueled the flames. The palace's official Instagram account shared a collection of images from the occasion. Camilla and Charlotte's photos were missing. Normally, royal press offices are scrupulous about showing unity. But this time, Camilla appeared alone or with Charles, while Charlotte only featured in images with Kate or other youngsters. The omission was not overlooked. Royal journalists, who are often given well-planned talking points, were abruptly left scrambling. No joint interviews were provided. There were no scheduled follow-up events with the family. A prominent observer wrote, "This is the most visible crack in the royal image since Meghan and Harry's Oprah interview, and far more dangerous because it involves the future queen and her child." Meanwhile, public opinion changed quickly. Camilla's favorability ratings began to fall once again. Online petitions circulated, with some urging that she be kept away from the Wales children during official visits. Others went so far as to demand that she completely relinquish her royal duties. It was a communications disaster, and behind palace doors, the damage control machine had already started churning. However, the problem was no longer limited to the storyline. It was the reality that millions of people accepted what they saw with their own eyes. Kate, placing her hand lightly on Charlotte's back, was not performing a role. She was a mother. Camilla, standing distant and frigid, was not misinterpreted. She was exposed, and no royal press release could change what was already clear throughout the world. The masses had picked a side, and this time, it was not the Queen consorts. For decades, the name Diana has tormented the royal family, serving not just as a symbol of sorrow, but also as a mirror from which they have never been able to escape. When the public notices compassion in Kate, elegance in Charlotte, or even restraint in William, they always say the same thing: Diana would be proud. Camilla's shadow has never lifted. Following the Windsor event, its shadow loomed greater than ever. Royal observers observed more than just Camilla scolding a youngster. They watched history repeating itself. They remembered Diana's own comments about feeling alone and belittled, how her feelings were rejected as hysteria, and how the system safeguarded its influence over individuals. And now, decades later, her granddaughter has been moved to tears by the same lady who, in the public's view, helped destroy Diana's happiness. Not only were the parallels emotional, but also visual. Social media exploded with side-by-side photos of young Diana soothing William after a fall, and Kate speaking to Charlotte with the same motherly love. For the public, it was more than merely comparable, it was spiritual. Charlotte wasn't simply Diana's grandchild, she acted as her own echo. Camilla's remarks didn't simply sting, they reopened ancient scars that the crown had frantically attempted to conceal. But when the past roared back, Catherine walked into it. For years, Kate has carried the responsibility of becoming Diana's replacement, the woman supposed to provide respect to the title Diana once bore like armor. Despite handling the burden with grace, she has yet to fully embody Diana's mystique until now. Diana was not remembered for being silent. She was noted for her stubbornness, for standing up when nobody else would, for keeping her boys safe while the walls closed in, and now Kate had done the same for her daughter. Behind the royal doors, the impact was instantaneous. According to insiders, Kate made it plain that Camilla's contacts with her children would no longer be unsupervised. From that day on, all future engagements would be handled by a senior aide or a member of her own home staff. It was not presented as a punishment, but the message was clear. Children come first, always. It was not merely a mother reaction. It was a regal one, and many in the public recognized it for what it was. Kate discreetly assuming moral authority inside the monarchy, not through scandal, not via press interviews or frightening headlines, but with strength, according to principle, through love. Camilla clung to a title, whereas Kate inhabited it. Everyone saw the change. Even William, who is notorious for suppressing his emotions, looked more supportive in the days following the event. He and Kate paid a surprise visit to a children's hospice, where he was snapped holding Charlotte's hand while she presented flowers to a little sufferer. A small gesture, but for royal watchers, it made a statement. This is what the future generation of monarchs looks like. This is the person we trust to lead it. Diana's shadow may never vanish, but instead of fleeing, Kate stepped right into it and brought light with her. And she did more than simply safeguard her kid. She honored Diana's memory by refusing to let history repeat itself. There are times in royal history that develop in silence, behind palace walls, in stolen looks, and in a mother's silent rage. What transpired at Windsor was more than simply a family disagreement. It was a reckoning, a moment that demonstrated how fleeting the illusion of oneness is and how deep the differences run when titles intersect with reality. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, did not scream. She did not release a statement or give a controversial interview. She did something far more powerful. She behaved for her daughter, for her family, for the future, and in doing so, she redrawn the invisible line that had allowed Camilla to go unchecked for years. No more. Because Kate was not speaking as a duchess or future queen at the time. She spoke like a mother, and the world listened. Camilla paid a price that went beyond public disgrace or declining popularity. It was the trust she had worked so hard to establish inside the family that fell apart in a single day. The palace may continue forward with forced grins and well-posed images, but a new line has been drawn behind closed doors, and once crossed, it will not vanish. William stood by his wife not only out of loyalty, but also because of legacy. He understands what it's like to be a youngster used for headlines, and he knows what his mother would have done if she were still alive. He and Kate now carry the flame for Diana and their own children. The royal family may still wear their crowns. However, make no mistake, true power belongs to those who defend without the need for it. After Windsor, the world saw this plainly. The future queen did not require a throne to govern that day. She only needed her voice, and when she used it, a family was split and the public picked one side, and the monarchy once again found itself at odds with its past.